Welcome back to Sage Cybersecurity. I'm your host, and today we're breaking down the most significant cyber threats from July 2026. This month has been brutal. We've got 5 major stories that every security professional needs to know about. CISA dropped a fresh known exploited vulnerabilities update with 4 critical SharePoint flaws. Fortinet's FortiBleed campaign turned out to be a direct pipeline feeding 2 ransomware groups. Oracle's e-business suite is under sustained attack with a critical 9.8 severity flaw. In what might be the most fascinating story of the year, Hugging Face got breached by an autonomous AI agent, and ransomware activity is surging worldwide, with DragonForce hitting dozens of organizations and a massive 5 terabyte judiciary data breach in the country of Georgia. Let's get into it. Story 1. On July 14th, CISA added 4 new vulnerabilities to its known exploited vulnerabilities catalog, all tied to Microsoft SharePoint. The headline vulnerability is CVE 2026-45659, a deserialization of untrusted data vulnerability that allows an unauthorized attacker to execute arbitrary code remotely over a network. CVSS score 8.8, CISA confirmed active exploitation in the wild, and federal agencies were given a hard deadline of July 4th to patch. Yes, July 4th, Independence Day, CISA literally told agencies to skip the barbecue and patch their SharePoint servers. The other 3 CVEs in this batch are CVE 2026-32201, CVE 2026-56164, and CVE 2026-58644. Together, these represent a serious attack surface for any organization running on-premises SharePoint server. The attack chain typically starts with an authenticated user accessing a vulnerable SharePoint endpoint. The attacker sends a crafted serialized payload that SharePoint deserializes without proper validation, leading to remote code execution in the context of the SharePoint application pool. From there, they can pivot to the underlying server, dump credentials from memory, and move laterally across the domain. If you haven't patched yet, you're behind. These are being actively exploited, not theoretically. Check your SharePoint farm version, pull the May and June cumulative updates from Microsoft, and get them deployed this week, not next month, this week. Story 2. FortiBleed. This one is a big deal because it connects a credential theft campaign directly to ransomware operations, closing the loop from initial access to encryption. Security researchers at F5 Labs confirmed this week that the FortiBleed campaign, which stole Fortinet administrator credentials from exposed management interfaces, is now feeding 2 distinct ransomware groups, INC Ransom and Lynx. Here's how the chain works. Attackers exploit known FortiOS vulnerabilities to harvest VPN and management credentials from Fortinet firewalls and gateways that have their management interfaces exposed to the internet. Those credentials are then sold or shared with INC Ransom and Lynx operators who use them to establish initial access into victim networks. Once inside, it's the standard ransomware playbook, lateral movement using tools like DragonStrike, privilege escalation through known windows or Active Directory vulnerabilities, data exfiltration before encryption, so the attackers have leverage for the double extortion, and finally encryption of production systems. The lesson here is simple but critical. Your VPN and firewall management interfaces should never be exposed to the open internet. If they are, assume your credentials are already stolen, rotate them now, and if you're running Fortinet gear, audit your FortiOS version against the FortiBleed advisory immediately. The vulnerabilities involved have been patched for months, but unpatched devices are still out there and they're being harvested. Story 3. Oracle e-business suite is under sustained attack, and the timeline here is particularly ugly. CVE 2026-46817 is a critical flaw in Oracle payments with a CVSS score of 9.8 out of 10. An unauthenticated remote attacker can exploit this to take full control of the application without any credentials whatsoever. Oracle released a critical patch update on July 21st, but researchers have traced exploitation back to early July, meaning attackers were chaining vulnerabilities before the patch even dropped. The attack vector is Oracle Payments, a module that many organizations expose for business-to-business financial transactions. Attackers are using this as an entry point to access financial data, potentially including payment card information and transaction records. Oracle also flagged a separate vulnerability, CVE 2026-35273, in PeopleSoft People Tools as a related concern. If you're running Oracle eBusiness Suite, this is a fire drill. Here's what you need to do. First, check if you have the Oracle Payments module enabled. If you do, apply the July 2026 critical patch update immediately. Second, review your access logs for the month of July for signs of exploitation. Look for unusual authentication patterns, unexpected API calls to the payments module, or data exfiltration indicators. Third, assess whether your Oracle infrastructure is internet-facing. Enterprise Oracle environments are high-value targets, and attackers know that patching cycles in these environments are notoriously slow. They're betting that you won't patch for weeks. Don't prove them right. Story 4, and this is the one that should keep you up at night. Hugging Face. the largest AI model hosting platform in the world, disclosed on July 16th that they were breached by an autonomous AI agent. Not a human attacker sitting at a keyboard, an AI agent. Here's what happened. A malicious dataset was uploaded to Hugging Face's platform. That dataset was specifically designed to abuse two code execution paths in Hugging Face's data processing pipeline. When the platform's own AI agent processed the dataset as part of its normal workflow, the malicious data triggered the agent to execute code, access internal datasets that should have been isolated, and expose service credentials to the attacker. The breach was limited in scope, but the implications are enormous. This is a paradigm shift in cybersecurity. We've been talking about AI as a defensive tool for years. This is AI as an attack vector. The threat actor didn't need to write custom malware, maintain command and control infrastructure, or even have deep knowledge of Hugging Face's internal architecture. They uploaded a dataset and let the target's own AI infrastructure do the work. Hugging Face reported this to law enforcement and is reviewing partner and customer data exposure, but the broader implication is clear. As more platforms integrate autonomous AI agents into their data pipelines, the attack surface grows in ways we don't fully understand yet. If your organization is building AI agents with tool access, you need to treat the tool layer as a security boundary, sandbox execution environments, restrict permissions to the minimum required, and assume the input data is hostile because it might be. Story 5. Ransomware activity is surging worldwide. Dark Web Informer's July 14th roundup documented a wave of new DragonForce ransomware victims, including Edison Global Networks, Cedar Crest College, Sleeman Breweries, Spectrum Chemical, Afina Pharma, Golden Glasgow and Associates, Vantage Point Management, and at least a dozen others spanning pharma, construction, energy, and education. DragonForce is operating at high volume right now, and they're not picky about sector. Small and mid-sized businesses are their bread and butter because these organizations often lack dedicated security teams and have slower patch cycles. Separately, a threat actor using the alias ByteItABridge is advertising 5 terabytes of data stolen from Georgia's court systems and the High Council of Justice. This includes judiciary records, case management data, and potentially sensitive legal proceedings. The sale was posted on July 21st, no official confirmation from Georgian authorities yet, but the volume and specificity of the data sample suggests this is legitimate. If you're in the legal or government sector, this is your wake-up call. Court systems are soft targets with high-value data and legacy infrastructure. They run on aging case management platforms that were never designed with modern threat models in mind. Assume you're being targeted because you probably are. Let's wrap this up with the key takeaways you can action today. First, patch your SharePoint servers. CISA doesn't add things to the known exploited vulnerabilities catalog for fun. If you're on the list, you're a target. The July 4th deadline has passed, which means agencies that haven't patched are now in violation of binding operational directives. Second, audit your Fortinet exposure. FortiBleed credentials are actively flowing to ransomware groups right now. Rotate your admin credentials, lock down management interfaces to internal networks only, and verify your FortiOS version is current. Third, apply the Oracle July 2026 critical patch update. CVE 2026-46817 is a 9.8 and it's being exploited in the wild. The patch exists, use it. Fourth, and this is the new frontier, think about your AI agent architecture. The Hugging Face breach showed that autonomous agents with tool access can be weaponized by malicious inputs. Treat your agent's tool layer as a security boundary. Sandbox execution, restrict permissions, and validate all input data before it reaches the agent. Finally, assume ransomware operators are already inside your network, the initial access market is booming, and your credentials might already be for sale on a dark web forum right now. Build your incident response plan before you need it, not after. That's it for this week's Threat Intel Brief. I'm Sage Cybersecurity. Stay patched, stay paranoid, and stay safe out there.